Shinnecock Art Museum over by the LA Tar Pits. These were all sort of unique type buildings, and they were fun to estimate, and they were fun to do.
So I want to, will you hand the mic down? I want to thank Nick Carrillo for throwing me this question. For you Groundbreakers, so as you progress towards more responsibility, what type of coaching or education or relationship are you guys looking for or hoping to get, moving on?
I think that everything is a learning process, and sometimes you need to fail to figure it out, and experience is the best educator. I grew up around the industry. I saw a lot of the business behind the scenes from my dad. He invested heavily in his relationships. It's a relationship business, and I've seen that ever since I was a little kid. So I think, I still ask him questions, and every time I want to learn something, or if I don't understand one side of the business, I want to go ask the question so I can figure it out. But I think to an extent, we have a different opinion and a different approach to things, and sometimes that might be a newer, a better way. Sometimes our clients are, the next generation, they're kind of our age now, and they might like things a different way. So it's all about balance. I think that if you have the coaching and the open dialogue, you can figure out that sweet spot where you use the experience and the knowledge that's been there, but you can also kind of innovate and figure out some new ways to go about it.
It's a beautiful answer.
It seems like construction is full of just all kinds of wild stories. And I love hearing all of the stories, and I think that as much as it is like trial by error or hard knocks, I try to learn everything I can from the stories. So if I can learn from every mistake that everybody else has made, I'll just hopefully prevent me making that mistake and skip right over that step. It's impossible to nail all those, I guess, but I really do listen. I love hearing the stories, and I remember them. I think it takes us, like the younger generation, to actually listen and absorb it, and to actually gain the lesson that's behind the story. I was told very young, like while I was driving the truck and cleaning and scrapping out, to work super hard next to all the guys in the field, or guys and girls in the field, because if I didn't work hard, they wouldn't want to work with me when I was hopefully progress into a future position. And now it's really led to like an open dialogue with a lot of the guys in the field who I can openly ask questions to and of, and they give me honest answers. I feel like nothing's held back. They want to help me learn. They want to help us grow. So going back to another question and maybe trying to wrap it up, like estimating was pretty hard for me in the beginning because I had a bunch of unit prices, but I didn't know what was behind them. So I didn't know, I had never framed, penetrating wall and how many, and I didn't know an accurate amount of how many each man should get because I had never done it myself. So it's hard to absorb that, just being told this is how many feet somebody should get. So I've spent a lot of time learning and trying to really understand and really imagine and really respect everybody in the field to learn from every angle. And I think having a mutual respect with everybody in the field has helped get good information.
Yeah, thank you. That seems to be an underlying theme, is the communication and relationships. And I think you guys have hit it well, and you Groundbreakers. And that's how an association was born. So I want to explore real quick our association. And Dick and Bob, at the beginnings of when you became involved in the association, what was that decision you made to become a contractor member of the WWCCA?
Actually, in my case, in 1960, my dad had a heart attack, and unfortunately, he was a heavy drinker, and so he didn't spend much time at the office. And I knew at that time that eventually this thing was going to blow up. So I'd been married for 5 years, saving my money, and I knew we had to keep going. And so when he got out of the hospital, I sat him down and I said, "Hey, we're gonna form a corporation, and because we need some better, stricter rules as far as the money's concerned." So we formed a corporation, and then went on from there. And he said, "Well, I don't want to work for a corporation," so he retired in 1960. He was a pretty young guy. He was only 54 years old. He moved down to San Juan Capistrano. So left myself and my brother. My brother at the time was working in the field as a plasterer, and then my Uncle John was he was the outside superintendent, and he kind of drank a little too, and wasn't too good with the money. You know, there's a big difference between a corporation and a partnership. So you have no controls with a partnership you do with a corporation. So, and when I was younger, just in high school, my dad asked me the question. He says, what do you want to do? And I said, well, I don't really know. He said, well, you know, he says, you could go to college, and he said you could become a doctor, you could become a lawyer, you could become a dentist. But he said, let me tell you one thing. When you go on vacation, everything stops. The money doesn't come in. He says, if you're a contractor and you go on vacation, if you build an organization, the money keeps coming. Didn't take me very long to figure that out. So that was my gist. So in 1960, we formed a corporation, and then we went on from there. And then 1964, I changed it. Actually, my uncle died, and just left my brother and myself, and I formed Markowall, which was Martin Wall Company, and then we went into the drywall business, and then went on from there.
Bob, what made you join the WWCCA? Why? What value did you see in an association?
It's a sounding board where you can gather information. You have some support for education. I've gone to many AWCI conventions and had very valuable meetings and educational programs that were presented at those meetings. So I think you can gain a lot from your competitors just in conversation and how they're doing something versus how you're doing something.
Let me just add one thing. In 1960, when my dad retired, then I came on to the executive board. And at that time, we had some pretty heavyweight guys. We had, some pretty Bob Reeder and Reimer and Raymond. And we used to have some pretty risky times. And I can remember when I first got there, I was a young guy, 25 years old, and in with all these heavyweight guys in the business, and I saw Paul Reimer and George Raymond get into an argument at the executive board. I mean, they really went at it, and the argument was about a 10,000 house tract in the valley. Who was going to do it? And at that time, Raymond had the housing market wrapped up. He did pretty well everything. And Reimer said, you're not going to do this in the valley, I'm going to do it. So that kind of started to squabble, and I don't think Raymond ever did any more work in the valley. Paul Reimer did most of it. So anyhow, that's when I started on the board.
So that's interesting, and that brings up a point as the Groudbreakers come up, as you begin to take over. Do you see a value in an association? Is it just by, from watching your parents be involved in it, or is there value for you moving forward in business? How does an association look in your eyes? On the spot.
Yeah, I obviously did not make the decision to join, but I definitely see the value of the educational programs, the sounding board. one reason, right? We want to be successful, we want to maintain ourselves, we want companies to be successful. And I think the support that companies provide each other help better everyone. And I think it makes us all better. I think it makes us all grow. I think it makes us all learn. And sometimes it's a little bit uncomfortable, but that's okay. I think coming to meetings like these, even if they're with your competitors or you lost a bid against them, it helps you in both your professional and your personal lives. You can always learn lessons. You can take little tidbits away from you. And I know I have quite a few very good friends in this room, so there's definitely value in it.
Yeah, I think the community of all the contractors, maybe just initiating and opening the door to let us know it's okay to talk to competitors. That's been the start of some really good relationships, trusting relationships that maybe wouldn't have otherwise known we were allowed to do or have. And then also getting the opportunity to just hear great stories, hear experiences, and learn and understand, like, everybody made mistakes, and we can be humble about it and have humility, and we're all just kind of people trying to figure it all out. And like, you're not just perfect, even though we think you guys are.
So I want to wrap this thing up with a real quick question. You just hold on to the mic there. From a Groudbreakers perspective, and not necessarily talking to the gentleman here, what do you want to say to I keep saying old guard, to those legends? What do you want to tell them about you guys that, hey, when you say, listen to what I want to tell you, is there something there?
I guess this is going to come from my personal experience. I feel like I'm in between the millennial, the next generation, because I can kind of complain about them too. I'm in between the old experience and that. But I kind of say, don't leave yet. Hang in there with us, because we need your experience. We'll get them to realize that they should value you. I feel like a middleman sometimes. But I think that's the general sentiment is the experience and all these stories and all the value leaving is scary to me, because I don't know if it's gotten down far enough yet. And I do want I want that to trickle down. I want pride to be back in the field. I don't know if it's just stories that we heard and it's characterized or something, but we want to see pride and morale and all these things come back to the way we hear it used to be. So I don't leave yet.
Yeah.
Tell us what you know.
I would say maybe we're hungry, we're eager, we want to learn, we want to try new things, we want to figure this out. We're ready, change is okay, sometimes it's for the better. We need to learn from everyone. I don't have the field experience, so I need those stories, I need those lessons. We need to be taught things, and we have things that we can teach as well. We can offer a different outlook, a different aspect, a different train of thought on things. So collaborate and come together, and we can better each other.
Thank you. So along that same line for the legends.
Let me add this.
Yeah, go ahead.
What the association does is it makes camaraderie amongst the contractors. Everybody has the same problem, and if everybody, you come to these meetings, you talk about what's happening,
starting a business?
OSHA, all the different things, this is the place that you can air out all those things. You're bidding against one another. In the old days, I don't know what it's like now, but in the old days, we bid against one another and tried to compete, but whoever got the job, in a lot of cases, if we needed men, we traded men amongst, we would trade the plasters and the lathers and the hod carriers. We trade them amongst ourselves. The old adage of, I gotta have enough work to keep my crews going. If you take care of your people in the field, when you run low on work, you can send them off to somebody else that's got the work. And if you treat them right, they'll come back. You don't need to keep people just to keep your place going. You're just throwing money away. If you treat your people right, they'll come back and work for you.
Beautifully stated. Real quick for you two, somebody that wants to get into construction, there's just an eager young individual out there. What advice do you give to people wanting to come into this business? Besides don't do it.
You know, I think you have to have a interest or an aptitude for construction. And after you have that, you have to expand on that by learning the most you can. I think one of the greatest things that I've been exposed to over the years has been not only this association, but WWCCA on a national level. We would meet people from different parts of the country. We would have open discussions. We would have committee meetings on different things. But one of the, I think, most rewarding things, and probably for Dick and I both, were the trips that we were able to take with our association group. And they were not just pleasure trips, they were working trips where we met in committee meetings and discussed many of the things in the industry. And we were always given sort of an itinerary of what that particular trip would tackle or what we would do. And I think it was very educational for me, and I'm sure for all the other peoples that participated in those trips.
Let me say one more thing. You ask about young people, new people coming into this industry or any industry. What happens in a lot of cases is you'll go to work, you'll save some money, you got 20, 30, 40, 50,000, whatever it might be. Well, I'm going to go into business for myself. So you decide, okay, we get going, you hire, you buy some equipment and so on and so forth. You're going to operate on that $20,000 or $50,000. That doesn't last long. And what happens, you could be making money going broke because you don't have a credit line. What I did, I went out and I borrowed $5,000. I'd keep it for 30 days, pay it back. And then I borrowed $10,000. Then I borrowed $20,000 and built my credit line up. And once you get going and you start employing people, a lot of people, in my particular case, lots and lots of people, and I was able to get through a lot of problems because I had good credit lines, paid my bills on time, took care of all the necessary discounts and et cetera. So what I would say, if somebody wants to go into business, one of the most important things is building your credit up so that you don't have to use your own money. Especially today, you can borrow money for 1.5%, 2%. Why use your money? Invest it. But you've got to have a good credit line. If you're going to grow your company, if you're going to stay small, that's fine, and I have no qualms with that. But if you're going to grow into hundreds of people, you've got to have a credit line, and that's something you have to start from scratch and work to get it there. And another thing I want to say, Derek Poole worked for Martin Brothers for many years. Boy, was he a moneymaker.
So it wasn't lying.
Well, unless any of you have any statements you'd like to make, any last comments, I truly thank you guys for coming up here and letting me put you on the spot like that. I know some of the questions were dug a little deep, but we thank you much, and I think the audience enjoyed it. There were some nuggets in there, line of credit, don't forget that. Talk to your bankers. We have a brand new banker as a member, so. But on behalf of the association, I extend my thanks to you. Nick, would you bring me that box that's against the wall, wherever it is? Somebody bring that up. So anyway, everybody give him a round of applause, please. Thank you. I started a little tradition when I took over as CEO, giving gifts for our speakers, and I chose a level because it just says so much. It's a true hardwood contractors level. It's got our logo emblazoned upon it. Yeah, keep your head level. All the things that go with it. So take that gift as a memory of us, and we thank you again. Any questions from you guys? Anybody want to throw one out there? See, they were so thorough. All right, well, let's see. Rika, we got to give away some stuff. Thank you all. You can either sit up here under these hot lights or you can go back to your chairs. Thank you, Brett. Weren't they great? It was a pleasure to hear. I've heard some stories from the legends, and they're legendary. I will say that. We all have stories. Let's take a quick break. I'm going to get off this thing. I hate talking.